dementia, connecting our lives to help us survive, so we live our time to the fullest we can.
Hi, and welcome to Dementia Action Alliance. Today, my name is Laurie Scherrer, and I am on the board of directors for Dementia Action Alliance. Today, I have the privilege of interviewing someone who I've become very fond of, Tracy Keibler. Tracy is the founding director of START Senior Solutions, an education and elder advocacy organization in Minnesota. She holds a master's degree in gerontology and has earned certifications in dementia consulting and training from Teepa Snow's Positive Approach to Care organization. Tracy is a fierce advocate for seniors and is recognized for her leadership as vice chair of the Minnesota Board of Aging and her work at the National Council on Aging in Washington, D.C. Tracy, welcome, and thank you so much for being a part of our discussion today.
Thank you so much, Laurie. I'm thrilled to be here with you.
I have had the privilege of speaking with you on a couple occasions and getting to know you and your work. You are just such a tremendous wealth of knowledge and such a great resource. I want to give a scenario. Let's say I'm single and need access to resources to help me live independently. I may not need them now, but when I do, how do I find an advocate who can help me get the resources I need put into place?
Excellent question, because I know that's a big concern for a lot of people, particularly people who are living with dementia. To directly answer your question, I can give you some of my go-to places where I go to find people who can help put those resources in place. But that's going to vary depending on where you live and what resources are available in your community. So just kind of as a general overview, my favorite places to start would be, of course, family, friends, but I know that that always isn't an option for people. Your church can have some resources. One of my favorite resources would be a parish nurse. And a parish nurse has a big network. So she may just know people who are in your area who are good elder advocates. So that would be a good one. Another one is an ombudsman for long-term care. So that is an office in every state where they have people who advocate for people who are living in long-term care. But a key resource could be to find somebody like that who's retired, who is now advocating for people privately. There's also a resource called the National Resource Center for Supported Decision-Making, which is exactly what we're talking about today. When I lay out my plans for the care that I want, I want to be involved in how those decisions are played out. And so that's what supported decision-making is about, is that you are integrally involved in creating your plans and making sure that those plans are laid out. But another key piece is, long before we really talk about who should be advocating for me, we really need to have a plan in place, because that will help us define who can help us make these decisions. So once we lay out a plan of our care, how we want our care to be managed into the future, some people may roll off that list. And it's often the case where you might think, oh, my oldest daughter would be a great power of attorney or a healthcare agent. But when I know specifically what my plans are, and I know that my daughter won't be able to carry them out, then it's time to think about who else would be a good decision maker. So the key things that we need to do when we're making this plan is, it comes down that we have to have this plan in place, a plan that specifically addresses your concerns, and a plan that has the checks and balances in place to fully protect you, your rights, and your assets. There are things that we can do to mitigate this concern that I know all of us have, is that one day someone's going to arrive in our home and they're going to say, oh, you have dementia, so now you need to move into memory care. So what we want to do is to put the steps in place to mitigate that from happening. And so the key questions here that physicians, adult protection, and your county workers, social workers are going to be asking are, do you have a safe place to live? So for a lot of us, we're asking the question, what does that even mean? What that means is, do you have a safe place for you? And the answer to that question is going to be different for each person. And something that I find really interesting is that if you're under the age of 65, the whole disability world and regulations are around keeping people engaged and living in the community. But once you hit age 65, the elder advocates and the legislative system hasn't kept up with the disability world. So after the age of 65, it's all about keeping you safe. So that's the question that we have to work around. So the question becomes, how do we construct a plan that keeps us living in the place of our own choosing, receiving the care that we would have chosen for ourselves? And the answer to that is to meticulously lay out a plan that covers our current needs, our mid-stage, midlife needs, and our end-of-life needs. And the big problem in this is that we all know what I need right now. And there's a lot of work around end-of-life care. We've got a whole hospice program, but there's this very big, long place in the middle where maybe you just need someone to set up your meds. Maybe you need someone to help you manage your finances, but neither of those things need to be reasons that you are moved into memory care, right? So as working on that plan with your team, your attorneys, people who know you, the important part is that you are an integral part of creating that plan. And the things that are important to you are laid out in your care plan. I also want to just reassure everybody that that day of somebody just coming and moving you into memory care, that absolutely does not have to happen. And that kind of an action, when you're thinking about your rights, that is a complete stripping of your rights to self-determination. And you have to know that your rights can only be taken from you through a legal process. So the only one who can force you out of your home is adult protection. And their primary concern is, are you safe? So rather than thinking of the day that adult protection might arrive at your home because somebody is concerned of your care, have the plan in place that makes their job to provide for your protection easy. Say, I already have this plan in place. We've got people checking. We've got all of these things in place. Then they don't have they can't say that you're not safe. The other way to be removed from your home is through the process called guardianship. And so if you do not have a healthcare agent and you don't have a power of attorney named, your family or concerned people who are in your circle of friends, whatever, and your physician could go to the court and argue to say that you need more supports and services, or you need all of the assistance of assisted living or memory care. That is a legal process. And in Minnesota, if you are in court and you can say that you do not want to have a guardian, the judge would have a very difficult time granting someone to have guardianship over you. Minnesota's laws are very strict. It is very difficult to get guardianship, and it varies state by state. But again, that's why it's so important to have these plans laid out and in place in advance of any of these things happening.
I know we have so much more that we wanted to talk about,
Yep.
but we're running low on time. So I want to go right to, how can a company like Start help us in making our decision, and explain what START is. What does START stand for, and what is it?
Okay, thank you for that. So START stands for Senior Transition Advocacy Resource Team. So we are an elder advocacy and education organization. That's pretty much all we do. Our mission is to help guide people. So when a senior is starting to have, I don't understand how to get from point A to point B, can you help me figure out the path forward? That's what we do. Probably 90% of our calls are people trying to figure out, how do I get from point A to point B, and what's the path? There's a lot of information out there on the internet, but it all doesn't work together. So can you just get me pointed in the right direction? And that's what we're really good at. So even though we're in Minnesota, if you were working on trying to create a plan for yourself, we can help you get clarity around what your specific issues are. We can help make suggestions for housing and organizations that we could help you vet in your local area or around the needs that you might be having. So once you get started on creating this plan and putting your team together to help you as you navigate your journey, if you come to a place where you get stuck, call us back and we can help you, finish out your trajectory. Our goal is to just be an ongoing resource, providing information and guiding and helping people navigate these really tough systems. So adult protection is a tough system, insurance, Medicare, Medicaid, VA benefits, all of those things are big and complicated. Even your own health system and your own insurance, that can be really hard to navigate. And we just help people navigate through some of these tricky things.
Wow. Is there programs available in every state?
So this is the really unfortunate thing, that I get a lot of calls and people say, how can I find a Tracy or a Start Senior Solutions anywhere in the country? And right now, I don't know of other organizations that operate quite like we do, but because of the Aging Services Network, which is a national program, we know how to navigate the Aging Services Network, and they can help guide, knowing how to access that can help guide anybody to resources in their own community.
Okay. I know when I spoke with you, we talked about a number of different situations that you were able to help people in. Can you give me one situation of how your organization was able to help?
Yeah, one of my favorite situations was a man who was diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia. And he was living in the community. He was struggling with finances, and everyone was really trying to push him into memory care. But he was able to get on a bus. He could go all around town. He was very social. And I knew that kind of confinement would be devastating for him. So we actually use technology to help. One of the concerns that everyone is going to have is, are you a wander risk? The only thing that memory care can actually mitigate is eliminate your wandering and being lost. And the only other thing they provide is a little higher level of staffing, let's say. He didn't need those. We just needed to try to figure out, he could go and come back, but we just needed to make sure that if he went out, that he was able to get back safely in a proper amount of time. Like he wasn't going to be spending the night outdoors. So he carried a cell phone, and we were able to use his cell phone. So when he was gone for too long, or if people were concerned that, he left this morning and he's not back and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we could figure out where he was and bring him safely home. And that piece of technology we were able to keep him in the community living in the community for at least 2 years longer than anybody thought that he was able. And when he moved into a care setting, he did not have to move into memory care initially. He moved into assisted living and was able to live in an assisted living setting for another probably year and a half before he moved into memory care. So to me, that was a big win for the quality of life of this particular individual.
Wow, that's so exciting. I mean, just as someone living with dementia, to know that there's an organization that will help me so I can live more independently for longer is just fantastic to know.
And to fight for your rights to be able to do that, right? Because that's what we all want. We want to be able to live independently as long as we are able, in the environment of least restriction.
Tracy, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for being with us today. I really appreciate it. And we look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Thank you so much, Laurie. It was a pleasure to be here today. Thank you.
And for our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast by Dementia Action Alliance. If you like this podcast, please subscribe to and like our YouTube channel. And there's plenty more interviews that you can view that hopefully you'll find helpful also. Thank you all.